Welcome and thank you all for joining us for this episode of the Crexi Podcast, an insider's look at all things commercial real estate. In this show, we cover a broad range of topics that cater to CRE newcomers and industry leaders alike. I'm your host, Ashley Kobovitch, Regional Director at Crexi, a comprehensive digital commercial real estate platform designed to empower CRE real estate professionals with the tools that they need to discover and transact property. Today, we are thrilled to sit down with Tejas Gosai, CEO of the Lehigh Valley Private Equity Fund, to discuss his in-market expertise and how digital marketing helped him establish himself as a leading broker nationwide. So before we have him hop in, I'll give you guys a little more detailed background. Tejas has over 20 years of real estate experience, including development, property management, and commercial finance. He started his career younger than most by earning a Bachelor of Science degree in less than 3 years from Ithaca College, while double majoring in marketing and legal studies with a minor in economics. He became one of the youngest students in 2006 to attain a Juris Doctorate from the Pennsylvania State University Dickinson School of Law. After completing grad school, Mr. Gosai moved to his hometown just south of Pittsburgh. He began a series of real estate development projects with a group of physicians, lawyers, and small family offices. With a focus on creating generational wealth for his investors, Tejas constructed, opened, and operated over a dozen major hotels, gas stations, and multifamily assets, and developed retail and strip malls totaling over $75 million in real estate holdings. Combining his experience, Mr. Gosai created one of the fastest growing commercial real estate firms specifically focused on the Allentown, Bethlehem, and Easton markets. He and his firm have closed over $100 million in deal volume with an average of 26.4 listing days on market. Absolutely insane. We are so excited to have you on board. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Love you, Crexi. That was such a long-winded intro. I'm sorry, Ashley.
No, it's totally fine. You have such amazing accomplishments. We need to tell our guests how excited we are to host you on the platform here.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here. I've been a big fan of you guys. So it's neat to talk about my stuff, I guess.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, the excitement is well received, and it goes both ways here at Tejas. So I know I gave a little bit of background and experience, but I'd love for you, in your own words, to kind of walk us through your career path.
Sure.
So how did you first get involved, kind of in commercial real estate?
So I was born in India, and I got to watch my family. My father's a physician. Go from I grew up pretty poor, and got to see my father become a physician. And I really think a lot of the struggle helped a lot in my life.
Mm-hmm.
But my father decided to build up the town that he built his medical center in. So he built a gas station, built a hotel. He used a lot of his own money to do so. And after college and law school, I kind of just taught my dad how to syndicate real estate deals, which was the first time I had ever done it. So we were both learning on the spot. And that's kind of how everything went from 0 to 60. It was really good, long-winded exploration of like building hotels, figuring out where things work, looking at occupancy and average daily rate, and being able to find a piece of real estate on the side of a road on a phone call. So we've had a lot of craziness over the years, but it started out, with one property and one concept and one idea, and got to grow a little bit.
I love that. I love that. I love hearing your background as well. I think that those types of stories are beautiful. I come from a single mom, so it's, kind of the same thing. And you just kind of learn early on. It's the grit, it's the determination and things like that are just going to kind of make sure that you are setting yourself up for success and not wanting to fail. So I think that's awesome. Thanks for sharing a little bit more of your background with us and our listeners today.
Sure.
taking a kind of a little bit of a step forward on what you were saying, it starts with one, right? One development and things like that. So, how would you say that working on the development side prepared you for entering into the brokerage or investment side of the industry?
Sure. Thank you. And a lot of people think it's just kind of bizarre that I became a realtor after building as much as I had the opportunity to. But so, yeah, I graduated a little young. I've always been kind of ahead of the times as far as I think. But I'm a data nerd. So I knew I wanted to get into the real estate business, right? This is a business. People are like,
Mhm.
buying property is real estate. But I wanted to kind of learn the tools and the skills. And so my father really gave me a crazy opportunity. It was like, hey, we're building this hotel. You can GC this and basically help with the whole construction project. Mind you, I was a third year in law school. And so I was driving back and forth from Penn State, and I got obsessed. It was so much fun to go through the process as a young 20-year-old and seeing it from start to finish. The piece of land is over here. We have a feasibility study. The feasibility study is used to find the franchise. The franchise combined with all these pieces is what attracts the investors to come in. And then, after you close a loan, you have a construction loan. That whole process, I got to learn on the fly, and it was awful. It was relentless. And I mean, I still have like nightmares about it because it's really it's fun, but it's very difficult to build ground up and to do
Mhm.
multiple projects at one time. So yeah, the first time I got to build a hotel, I didn't sleep very much, and because it was my family's hotel, everyone wants everything to be perfect, and it was the first time my father kind of gave me this opportunity. So yeah, first hotel that we built, 86 room, Best Western, and it was block and plank construction, pool, beautiful. And it's actually on 101 Gosai Drive.
Ah, that's awesome.
It's an even better reason. So my dad obviously picked road, and he picked drive because backwards it's Dr. Gosai. My dad's Dr. Gosai.
Wow, that's awesome. Okay, a little pun
Smart
in
planning.
there.
Yes, exactly. But I think you got to just get into what you're doing, and that's what I had the
Mhm.
opportunity to do. And I never looked back. I've actually never had an employment contract. I've never had a salary. I've always owned my own businesses. Sink or swim. You got to pay your staff before you pay your mortgage.
Yep.
All that kind of fun stuff.
Absolutely. So it seems like you were just really thrown into everything and just kind of learned a lot on the fly, right?
Totally. So data, right? You can figure
Mhm.
out every answer in the world if you look online and you spend enough time and get into the minutia. But
Mhm.
that's kind of how I learned the hotel world. It was really um, talking to experts, asking them, begging them for information,
Mhm.
looking at the internet, doing the calculations for what the metrics are for a hotel, and how important all those things are all the way through. Like when you do a project, you have to answer to the bank or you have to answer to your investors. So the more obsessively you know about every date and item without looking at your notebook and
Mhm.
things like that really matter. And then I got to see that firsthand. We went right into a second hotel and a third hotel, and it just kind of never stopped after that. But I'm still learning stuff today that I didn't know, or I don't know, or I
Mhm.
thought I knew better. So it's fun. You're like a kid in this business all the time.
Yep, you got to be a sponge. And I always say, right, the classic phrase of knowledge is power, right? In sales, there's always the line of always be closing. I always think about always be learning, right? Because there's something that anyone can teach you. And the more that you know, the more confident that you appear. And, the people that want to work with you or banks or things like that you're talking about.
Yeah.
So that's always a good lesson to keep in your mind. I absolutely agree.
There's this Indian saying, and I'm not going to say it because I'll mess it up, but it's like you have to rip knowledge away and give something back.
Yep.
Um, so like I think people are very timid in today's age. People don't like to use the phone. I was a big calling robot for many years to get my real estate business off the ground.
Yep.
But all those touches, and it's all about sales. It's all, people want a story. They want to communicate with you. people are kind of afraid to go and do something. It's like every year they're more and more afraid where, you just got to do it. And
Hmm.
it's easy to say it, it's hard to do it, but I'm trying to make a point here. Go do it.
Go do it. Absolutely. And I think too, and we'll get to this, but especially in real estate and commercial real estate, I mean, it's a very relationship driven business and you still got to make those cold calls, right? I love making cold calls. I truly do. And, I'll be in sales my whole career and it's definitely the foundation. And, meeting people in person and face to face and really, selling yourself as well as selling the brand that you're representing. But, those connections and you just got to go out and do it. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Talk to people, mess
Yep.
up, make a draft.
Yeah.
Like, it's okay. Tell people you don't know stuff. It's all right.
Yep. I always say this in part of my French, but a shitty first draft, right? You gotta mess
Yes.
up a couple of times before you
Yes.
get into the groove of what you're talking about. So those are amazing lessons, of what you've taken on earlier in your career, and I'm sure you have a ton more that I'd love to go into. But what are some of the challenges that you sort of faced, especially when you were in more of the investment ownership career, that best prepared you for success?
Um, I'm big on the preparation, right?
Mhm.
So, um, here, I'll say something that I had to overcome that I still have to overcome is my age. Um, because when I was a 23-year-old
Mhm.
building hotels and talking to investors, I was just a young 23-year-old. And then when I was 25 and I already built a couple hotels, I was still a young 25-year-old. And even though by 27, I was just always, people kind of, it's different. It's difficult when you're younger, but it's difficult by default. Like there's a lot of
Mhm. Yeah.
older, seasoned people in the business that are weathered. So, and there's a big barrier of entry. So that was like kind of my biggest thing, being able to, and I'm going to say this negatively first, like being able to convince someone that you're right.
Mhm.
Like, I don't really mean you have to convince them. Like if you have a
Mhm.
good product, you have passion, you can look at yourself in the mirror. If you sell somebody something, it's a good thing. You have a relationship for a very long period of time. So investors are risk averse,
Mhm.
and anytime you're working with somebody new or a different opportunity, there's risk and people don't want to take risk. So the only way to fight that is by getting more knowledge, more information, and
Mhm.
then being able to portray it. Like you got to act like you know everything, but you really could know everything about this
Yeah.
meeting or this
Yeah.
topic or like all the variables that people kind of ask you. So yeah, I think dealing with investors is always difficult on any scale. I think like I'm still sometimes uncomfortable talking to a big investor
Mhm.
that's done hundreds of millions of dollars of deals. Or even I ran into a real estate agent from New York that wanted to look at some of our properties, and I looked him up. He closed like 2 billion in real estate deals. I'm like, it's fantastic. Like I'm blushing looking up to somebody like him. So being humble, having some scale, and working hard works.
Yes, I believe that. And to your point, I feel that a lot of young professionals that are just getting started feel the same way. And a lot of people want to see the gray hair in the room or, may or may not believe you, but I absolutely agree that the more prepared that you are, the more confident you are in yourself, practice your pitch in front of a mirror multiple
Yes.
times, right? That's the best thing for success. Try to anticipate the questions that you're going to get ahead of time and make sure that you do know your deals or you do know your pitches inside and out, so you can confidently say something off the cuff and respond versus looking at your notebook or something like that. Those little things are really what's going to make you win the business and put yourself ahead of the other competition and kind of combat a little bit of people wanting an older person or seeming or thinking that they want that
Yeah.
versus, going with you as an example.
Or they just don't want you. You got to make them want you.
Yeah. Yeah.
You want me.
There's a difference. You want me.
Yeah, yeah.
Awesome. So there was a lot of really good lessons in there, and how you kind of took your challenges and potentially negatives and turned them into positives for your career. Before we pivot into more digital marketing, is there any other lessons or tools that you learned, kind of early on that you want to share with the rest of us? Anything else that kind of comes to mind?
I guess real estate related there, and this is kind of a data thing too, right? There's
Hmm.
just a ton of software out there and databases and
Hmm.
information. Like everything's on the internet, and there's so many people willing to share all of that stuff. So like just Reonomy is a really good resource to find owners, data mine. Like that combined with Crexi has made us millions of closings, or has gotten us to the table. Um, so yeah, just there's so much out there. I don't have an exact answer, but like, please look, it's there,
Yep.
and then you'll be confident, you'll have some fun. I promise.
Absolutely. Again, I mean, the age of the internet, everything is out there. And one of the things too that really resonated with me is you would call professionals and just ask them. People love to help other people. So just raising your hand and kind of asking and being hungry for that knowledge and to learn, I think is absolutely invaluable.
And everyone's accessible. Everyone has
Mhm.
Facebook, Instagram,
Yep.
Twitter, yada yada.
LinkedIn, exactly. People want to connect and then they want that, especially in today's world that, some people are lacking that connection. So they definitely want it.
Totally. I'm like, when are we meeting?
Yeah, exactly.
Where do you want
Can
to
I
go?
take you for a coffee,
Yeah,
please?
Tuesday at 2 or Wednesday at 4.
I love that. So moving into more of our second topic and pivoting into digital marketing. You've discussed data and technology. So talk us through how you've used technology to build a successful commercial real estate network.
Sure. So I'm a child of the internet. I like know HTML, and I had Netscape and Prodigy, and like just grew up through the internet, and just loved data. But then as I became an adult and saw how you could own more data than the other person, which would give me more answers or more information. Um, I was able to apply a lot of the tools. Like Facebook was out when I was senior in high school or freshman. I can't remember, but um, learning about how you can connect people. So um, data mining, a big thing in real estate, and a big piece of what I do is find the person, and it's really difficult to find the person, but nowadays it's a little bit easier, but then there's more people contacting those folks, so you always have to kind of get ahead of the curve. So yeah, we have a podcast, we do a bunch of great stuff, yada yada. But I think a big thing about data, and everybody wants the answer to this stuff, is like, how do we get the listings? That's what everybody asks us. How do you get the
Hmm.
listings?
Yep.
And so when I moved to the Valley, I'm an hour north of Philadelphia.
Hmm.
Uh, our economy went from 36 billion to over 45 billion in the past 5 years. I got my real estate license on January 1st, 2017. And so the first things I did is I learned this thing called Mojo Dialer, and
Okay. Yep.
it's a triple line dialer.
Hmm.
Um,
I've
and
used it.
I called everybody, and I didn't tell them about my background or my history. I just figured out how to get through the gate, communicate with the people, ask for a meeting, things like that. I actually took autodidactic tonality classes, and all these things are like, let me help you sell your home, and go
Yep.
in different pitches and tones. So um, I don't think I did anything revolutionary, but I built our real estate practice on expired listings, calling them, showing up, begging for the work, um, having a good media company. Like after I sold one listing, it took me 8 months to make my first paycheck in this business. So 2017 got my license. Like I'm like, I swear to God, to my wife, I'm like, this is gonna work. I swear. And went 8 months without a paycheck, had a first closing, but I had a ton of listings. It takes time to build the
Mhm.
business. So in this business, it's what you're marketing. So I'm marketing the opportunity to buy this property, but it's not really to a buy. I'm marketing the opportunity for the seller to work with us,
Mhm.
be able to find the best buyer and to make sure it works out the right way. So a lot of the phone calls became easier because there was more data. The sellers got to see our track record very quickly. Like if I sold one listing, like everyone heard about it. Just we did it in 28 days. We did it in this amount of days. Um, so that's how we built our business. It was really just phone call after phone call after meeting, doing the best. We get 1,000 characters in the MLS for the remarks, like making sure it's the best narrative you can possibly put together. You have to make people salivate over the inventory. But that's how we did it. That's literally how we did it. And anyone could do it. It was just a relentless onslaught of calling and meeting more people than anyone else was willing to meet. Pre-COVID, it was a little bit easier. But that's how we built our business.
And that's awesome, and that's doing everything that you were saying that you were doing, right? Making the calls, actually showing up and doing it, putting it out there after. I think that some people, even in this day and age, have a problem sometimes with bragging, right? And having something close in 24, 25, 26 days on average, I mean, that's brag worthy, right? So it's
Totally.
making sure that you're controlling the narrative and you're putting it out there where it needs to be so that those people are, going to come back to you and you're going to find other listings because people want that as well.
Totally. And then, the root of real estate, commercial real estate is having listings and then, compiling your buyers. I'll just flip it because,
Mhm.
we're probably going to talk more about Crexi here and there, but being a data nerd, I've kept every lead that I've ever had on the buyer side for any listing I have ever had since 2017,
Mhm.
organized. Like now there's tens of thousands, but since my first one, I have kept every single person and I've kept in touch with every single
Mhm.
person. I send newsletters and I will do, Christmas gifts and all those things that like blow our budget and it's so expensive. But, you know, we've created such a good relationship with some of these guys. They know it's our listing because we have a very specific, set of remarks. We use the same media company. So a big part of it is using that to pull the people in, keep them here, and let them know that you're working on another listing. We really this isn't. I don't want this to sound bad, but like we wanted to have both sides of the equation and kind of get all the nonsense out up front. Like, here's the financials, here's the information, here's the buyer. You two can talk if you want to. Like, we're just trying to close a deal. It'd be better if we got all the nonsense out in the beginning. So a lot of our model was just built on, this is the listing is the attraction. We have these folks, they like us. They might not be able to buy that piece of inventory, but there's something else here. So yeah, another big thing is newsletters and, social media is great, but I think a lot of people love their inbox and the people that like newsletters and like to repeatedly read the same, topics and
Mhm.
narrative. It's an attraction point. I don't think there's a lot of, you guys, all these other companies definitely do, but a lot of agents aren't as savvy in that regard, or even folks looking at buying and selling real estate themselves, or syndicating deals. There's a lot of ways to use these resources to win the game.
Absolutely. I think, and those constant touches and figuring out the way to separate yourself with, newsletters and things like that, and always keeping your leads, even from, when you first started, again, building those relationships and kind of going, outside of the box with Christmas gifts or, things like that is what's going to keep people coming back. And you're absolutely right. There's a buyer out there for everything. And if we had connected a couple of years ago and maybe it wasn't something that was right for me then, but I now see something else of yours, I'm gonna be more likely to come back to you because you have been doing all of those touches and kind of keeping me in the loop. Right.
Totally.
Um, So what kind of digital tools do you use that are really helpful or maybe not as helpful to kind of establish these types of things and make that, easier for you as a part of your business?
Um, can I talk about Crexi yet?
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Okay. Um,
Absolutely.
so I will say, like, now that I've talked a lot about beginning here and there, so
Mhm.
um, I think I was one of the first people to move over to Crexi almost like exclusively. And that is because I spent sometimes 50, $100,000 a year on other platforms that I shouldn't mention here. And then difficulty was everybody goes to these certain ones and you have to pay for the diamond, the platinum, the like triple platinum. And it was just taking advantage of the process because you know commercial real estate agents rely on some of these platforms. So um Crexi has really made our algorithm change essentially. Like we got a Crexi contract. This is a few years ago. We moved all of our listings on, and then the platform kind of took care of itself. We were able to put all the due diligence in there. Um, you know, the lead generation was so easy for us to work with and move into the right pockets and distill who's the right people that we're working with. So um our business is always about refining and refining and refining and like figuring out what works and what doesn't. um so the data part of it, so Crexi is one of our biggest successes over the past couple of years. We've sold millions and millions. I don't know how much the number is, but I know it's over 50 or 60 maybe at this point with last year.
Wow.
And yeah, that's because we put all of our listings out there. We tell all of the people we know to use Crexi, like
Mhm.
all the time. I've been doing this for years. I call myself your unofficial mascot.
You definitely are.
But there's a lot of people that just don't know. So when pre-COVID, we would do we had cocktail hours and we gave presentations and things like that. And we did something cool. Like I hate COVID for this reason, but we had these little cut sheets that were like, here's where our inventory is. Here's where you can email us directly. Here's how you look at the due diligence portion of Crexi.
Mhm.
Here's why you should look at Crexi and then contact us. So we were like educating a bunch of people um, on the platform. And then we started noticing that a lot of the people within the Crexi world like kept coming back to us. And that had not never happened with any other platform. So, and from what I was saying beforehand, like we're the listing guy. So I take a ton of pride in every photo, every video, the remarks, everything. So, um, with with the platform, with the way that works, it really integrated with us. And then also my brokerage, we're at EXP Realty.
Mhm.
So, EXP is a virtual real estate firm, and they have tons and tons of tools that we can use. So right now we're managing about 80,000 contacts between Crexi and our in-house CRM. We have a 120,000 person newsletter, which is so cost prohibitive to send. But I really enjoy spending the few $100s per newsletter. But this is like the bottom of the ninth for us. We've scrubbed our data, we've pulled so much together, and now, like just in Crexi alone, we have about 6,000 um, leads in our. When you log into Crexi, I can message 6,000 people at one time with a new piece of inventory. I get a 48-hour jump start before you have to put it in the MLS with the new rules. They curbed a lot of the off-market stuff. I don't know
Mhm.
if you know anything. Yeah. So,
Mhm. Mhm.
um, yeah, that's how we're able to even sell our inventory faster. Our statistics are based on a couple years ago. Like we're selling inventory in 5, 7, 10 days. We're getting a letter of intent, and the speed at which our market and then just commercial real estate in general is moving, we take advantage of everything. We put you know we require 5% for the
Mhm.
deposit, earnest money. required a letter of intent signed, everything. And we're getting LOIs in our inbox within 12 hours, within 5 hours of us putting a listing online now. And I don't know if you want me to share this, but like it's peanuts for your platform compared to the other ones. It's like, I want to pay you more money.
I can't tell you how many brokers have actually said that. And, I mean, it's everything that you're saying. And they come back and they say, I found a buyer through Crexi that I transact with, 3 or 4 times even. And, this is paying for Crexi for the next 15 years.
Yeah.
This is, you guys
50
got to
years.
charge me more. Yeah, exactly.
That's great. Well, even in that, you guys do the newsletters and all these other touches, but I had a lot of success with the auction platform.
Good.
And that's a big piece of, like, look, hotels are bought and sold on 10x, like all the time. And that's like what the hotel world is customary to. So, Crexi Auctions, I've had a couple like $10-15 million properties go up. We've only sold, it's tough. We've only sold a couple of them. It's not the platform, it was the inventory. But yeah, so that was really neat. I unlocked Crexi Auctions, I think like a year after we started with you guys. The first piece of inventory we put on was a property called 600 Flagstaff. And because we put it on Crexi and I shared it with a couple of publicists, we got in the news, which was really cool. So me and Anthony Gutine, I can never pronounce his last name right. We got like a spot in a bunch of papers,
Yep.
which was really neat. So, yeah, just things like that. I don't think there's that many platforms that have all of these combinations, and then to be able to use the same leads, the same folks to be able to ship things out. I talk a lot. You can stop.
No, you're totally fine. And I can't pronounce Anthony's name either. We call him Gator. So
Wait, what do you call him?
We call him Gator.
That's so good.
So you're totally fine on that.
Yeah.
But no, I appreciate all of that, because at the end of the day, Crexi truly does want to be the one-stop marketing shop for you. So, when we did release that auction arm, and we've seen such great success, we just had a full business park auction in Las Vegas. It was 155 million. It went over reserve, sold for over reserve. So it was the largest online auction in commercial real estate to ever be done online.
Wow.
Yeah, and we beat
155 million.
Yep, that was the asking price, and we sold it for way over that. So I mean, it's fantastic just to see the way that Crexi is evolving, and beating out other companies that have been in the auction space for quite some time. So you're absolutely right. You hit on where we were talking about in COVID, how things are changing and people weren't doing the cocktail hours anymore, but the way that they're buying and exchanging and trading commercial real estate has gone a lot online.
Oh yeah.
Things like Crexi, where you can put the due diligence right in there and you can host your leads and contact them all in one fell swoop. I mean, those things are just invaluable to the brokers like yourselves who are using the platform correctly. So
yeah, there's something to be said for being able to reach a lot of people with something good really quickly.
Yep.
And we're good at that. I should say also that we've had our biggest deal with Crexi. Yeah. What was it? I can't remember, but it was our largest deal through Crexi, and it was an LOI within 72 hours that ended up being, it was like a 3-point-something million cash deal that closed in 28 days. So it was literally like dumped it on Crexi, got an LOI, got an agreement of sale, took it off Crexi, it closed.
Wow.
Yeah, that happened. I mean, I should tell you guys this stuff. I don't.
Yeah, no, that was going to be a next question. Is there, a success story or things like that? I mean, that's absolutely fantastic. The proof is right there.
Yeah. I mean, I would have never even thought to tell you guys that, but that's one thing that happened. But there's been a bunch of times where, because our market is insane, I have to say too, I don't like, other markets have other specific environments and, totally different
Mhm.
worlds compared to our market. Our market is moving. It's just been 5 years of straight up. Our pre-COVID numbers are like, we've just totally surpassed anything that our market has expected. And it keeps getting better. So for us, we have a lot of new competition, and there's
Mhm.
much bigger companies. My firm, there's a handful of us. I like to think of us as boutique. Um, but like, some of the big boxes like Marcus and Millichap and
Mhm.
Rittenhouse and CBRE,
Mhm.
my market was a little bit smaller. Now they're coming over here, and for us to be able to compete with them is difficult, just because they have a bigger everything, right?
Mhm.
But we've kept going, and we've like, because we have to interview, right? We got to go talk to these guys, and we know who else they're talking to. And
Right.
there's a couple of guys from Keller Williams commercial that we compete with, and it's healthy competition. Like,
Mhm.
we all still sell each other's inventory to each other,
Right.
but
Right.
you want to win the listing. So you have to be able to compete. And I still use my record. So like, I'm always like, look, we put this on, we took it off. We put this on, we
Mhm.
took it off. This happened. And that's what wins business. Like,
Yep.
people almost don't care what we did last year, the year before. It's like, what did you do in the past 60 days?
Yes.
Crexi statistics are one thing that I predominantly share,
Mhm.
because you can see the uptick, and I click on the button. I'm like, look, an hour ago, this person was there, and an hour,
Yep.
2 hours ago, and things like that. So it's fun. I didn't even mention that this helps us win listings. It's not just
Mhm.
a disposition of properties. It's one of the key factors to our brand.
Absolutely. And, at the end of the day in commercial real estate, I truly think that it's the responsibility of the broker to sell the deal in the quickest amount of time and get the most money for the deal.
That's it.
Right? If you can do that, you nail it. You nail it every time. And being
Everyone's
able
happy.
Exactly. It's a win-win for everyone. And being able to show that in technology over and over again, especially in listing meetings, and you can, show that or say, hey, these are the people that I'm going to immediately call. And this is a report that I'm going to show you. And this is how I'm going above and beyond and differentiating, and going to get your deal sold. So I absolutely think that's fantastic.
It's fun. It's making business fun again. COVID was awful.
Good.
It was like, how do you survive this? And then how do you thrive in this? Now, look, it's
Yep.
2022. It's like, this is the first, you're like the first human I'm communicating with besides my family.
Yeah.
But you can take a look back now, and I think one thing that's big is we're gonna have a lot of dysfunction and like chaos, and that's
Mhm.
just the nature of things now.
Yep.
Um, but like, Crexi you're a disruption company. You're here to do something.
Yep.
I think that's what's going to save the world. It's like, people are okay with jostling things here and there, and you have to disrupt. It's like Airbnb and this and that and whatever.
Yep.
Like, what are you going to do that's different? You kind of almost have to become your own Airbnb, your own disruption in your market. Make a
Mhm.
wave.
Absolutely. No, I completely agree. All right. Well, thanks. Thanks so much for all of that. That was fantastic and a really great insight look onto all of the stories and how digital marketing has really helped shape your business. So thanks so much for sharing all of that
Sure.
with us.
Love it. Love it.
Same. So pivoting a little bit into, kind of your specific market. We're still in the beginning of 2022. A lot of investors are hitting the ground running, this year with their new targets. So what kind of market trends or changes do you potentially see on the horizon in Philly, in Lehigh Valley, or more broadly on kind of a nationwide scale?
Sure. So I will say I'm in a fast-paced market, and so are a lot of other people. Um, Everything that happened over the past couple of years totally changed everybody's landscape, whether you were 2 years, 5 years, 7 years ahead. So I think everyone is still kind of rewriting themselves to some degree, right? We're trying to like take it on and figure it out. But money is moving, and it's all over the place. And I don't mean that in a like, stocks or this or that or whatever. It's just people are more trusting of real estate, I think, than they've ever been. I think a lot of the great stock and Bitcoin and all these other things make people over 50 even more stressed about what's going on in the world. And most of my
Me
clients,
too.
yeah,
Me too,
totally.
if I'm honest.
But it's great. It's like you can't pay for that kind of advertising
Sure.
to invest in real estate. It's
Hmm.
that this is what's going to be here. So I think macro level, a lot of people are doing a lot of things everywhere. There's more people trying to get into real estate. There's people who are in real estate trying to figure out, what position they're in, what they can do next.
Hmm.
Um, I think also, with what I've seen and over the past few years, there's a lot of people who are really doing a good job of getting into real estate and then like jumping pretty quickly. And then there's other folks that have just amassed such a crazy portfolio. They have like tax issues to deal with. It's not even buying and selling real estate. It's tax game. And how do you, cost segregate, and should you refinance or things like that. So money is moving.
Hmm.
Investors are looking to invest in real estate.
Hmm.
Inventory is moving because there's a lot of people that are selling. There's, every day people get older, and we have a very large veteran and, there's a big population bubble that has owned so much of the real estate, and their kids are now doctors, and their 6 unit and their 12 unit put them through medical school,
Yep.
and they don't want the property anymore and they live somewhere else. Like there's so much of that. And then one other thing is I represent a lot of doctors and lawyers, just high net worth individuals. They're people that only trust like a local, not even local. They trust people they communicate with.
Sure.
And so like, whereas you're going to put all your money in mutual funds and you talk to your financial advisor once every now and then, and it's different in real estate. And a lot of the younger physicians that are 35, 40, 45, the medical industry has changed. So I think there's a huge influx. I don't know if it's because I'm Indian, but there's a lot of folks that are trying to get out of their professions that they have worked really hard for and get 50 units and then not have to do what they're doing. So I'm just kind of shooting from the hip. I don't have anything negative to say. I just think there's a lot of opportunity. I don't know what your opportunity is. I think if you have a good product and you're passionate, like you'll do okay. If you're trying to raise millions of dollars, this is the
Hmm.
year. Now is the time to do it. There's no better time than 2022.
Absolutely. Oh, I love that. I mean, I completely agree in terms of the inventory and just the switch and, where people are at in their lives and the switch, excuse me,
Yeah.
of wealth that's, kind of happening and the switch, the transfer of wealth that's happening. I think that that's very generational and, we're going to be seeing that, more and more over the next few years. So getting in and capitalizing on that now would be fantastic. So last kind of question for us here as we wrap up. So what kind of piece of advice or any lessons would you give either to investors potentially who want to participate in your market or any market? And then as the flip side, any messages to potential brokers seeking to establish themselves? So kind of a twofold question. I'll go first, just any advice for the investors, and then second, any advice for new brokers trying to establish themselves.
So investors, and depending upon where their entry level is, if you're buying a 2 unit, that's awesome. You should buy the 2 unit. If it's a 10 unit, a 20 unit. I think for people who are looking to acquire real estate, the access to the listings is a big thing, and speed, because the market's moving so quickly. A lot of people are putting in LOIs very quickly to hold a position,
Hmm.
like faster than ever. Um, so you can lose on a listing really quickly.
Hmm.
And that is like the worst if you have like analysis paralysis
Yep.
and you don't pull the trigger. This is one of those businesses where an investor is fully in charge of their fate,
Mm-hmm.
and that's scary. And I've done it. Like it's very scary to do a first deal, second. It's still scary to do a 100th deal. But if you're looking, whatever market you're looking at, so you need to access that market. That goes to the other part of it. Get the right broker, because
Mm-hmm.
it's a 50-50 shot, right? The investor loses if the broker doesn't do his job, and the broker is supposed to get the inventory and make sure they get the deal. So, it is a bit of a marriage, but it's a calculated marriage. It's not like a blind, another Indian thing, an arranged marriage. The investor is looking for the broker and the market, and the broker and the market is looking for a good investor.
Sure.
So here for just something that would help, I think specifically, is if you're an investor, no matter what stage you're in, if you put a resume together and you have, even if you are just starting out, like I'm passionate about real estate, I have analyzed 50 deals, I've looked at hundreds of listings, I have a full-time job, I've worked on my credit. That's one thing we do for like first-time investors. They don't own anything. But then on the other side, if there's somebody who has their 4-unit, 8-unit, you really got to make that look awesome. You should submit that with your broker's resume. And we have a broker resume that's like, look, we have closed X amount of deals on the selling side, on the buyer side. On the buyer side, we vet our clients, we get bank statements, pre-approvals, like all of that. We don't even take people out anymore unless you can prove your financial viability. And that makes the broker better and makes the investor better.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's like you take those two pieces and then a listing pops up, like submit, and an LOI is not really worth anything. Okay. It's just hey, I like you. I want you to like me. And like speed, consistency
Mm-hmm.
whenever you have that. So
Mm-hmm.
preparation equals luck plus opportunity. I think that will help you just crush the market.
I love that line. And as we're kind of talking, I'm almost relating this to like dating and relationships a little bit, right?
It is. It is.
So as an investor, know what you want, know what you're looking for, know what you have, create that resume. And think on your feet, be fast, right? As we were saying in the beginning, put that action there, because if not, someone else is going to swoop it up. So, I kind of have those things. And then, on the broker side, know the market, have your knowledge, and, try to find that best fit. I think that's fantastic advice.
It is totally dating, because
Yeah.
I mean, here, I don't know how long this is. I'm going to go on a tangent here. I love it that you said that. And it's not like I think about this, but it is dating now that you've
Mhm.
said it, because
Yeah.
you are trying to marry the person.
Hmm.
Like every single person you're communicating with, you are trying to marry them. And that's when the deal closes.
Right.
It's like the official contract. And
Hmm.
honestly, like no one's really happy until you win in the
Hmm.
relationship. Like,
Right.
so that it's a fun hunt. It's laborious, and you go through emotions and you lose an
Yep.
LOI. This property, I should have put 5,000 more in. You look at it after it's settled and you would have won it. And that's obsession. It's fantastic. And you get
Hmm.
obsessed about each other, and that's good. And really there's good breakup here. Like if the investor is not pulling the trigger, somebody's working their butt off, they're going to find another investor. Like the broker,
Sure.
on the flip side, like the brokers on the listing side, okay, we are looking for a good counterpart
Hmm.
and a good investor. So it's not like everyone has the same aligned interests. I don't think
Right.
people say that enough. This is a beautiful business. Okay. You are putting anyone who owns a multifamily, you are putting the children of those tenants through school. You're paying for the taxes, right?
Yep.
You're making sure that the place is taken care of. Affordable housing, there's a ton of guys that is their focus. Yes, you make millions of dollars, but you're also creating housing for millions and millions of people. I
Hmm.
think everybody gets obsessed with like cap rate, return, real estate guy with a suit on, blah, blah, blah. But this is economy. We're helping people. There's people who
Hmm.
want to find another place to live that's nicer, and there's another owner that has a better place. And I just wanted to get that out.
No, absolutely. I think that all too often, you're absolutely right. Or you see commercial real estate brokers as salespeople and, or this is just a deal that needs to get done, but there's so much more that is, coming involved in it. So it's always nice just to take a step back sometimes and realize the good that is coming from these deals, in addition to obviously closing them and getting paid and, investors getting a return.
Yeah. We're healing the world one property at a time.
It's the best tagline. It's going to be our new tagline.
Yes, use it.
Well, that was amazing. Oh, thank you so much for joining us and sharing your insights, especially on such important topics. We
Thank you.
appreciate your time. Yes, I know you're very busy, so thank you for taking this time this afternoon to sit down with us.
For sure.
Where can people find you online if they want to get in touch? So your email or social media.
Um, yeah, I'm bad on both of those.
A LinkedIn?
Yeah,
Do you
I
do
have,
those messages? Okay.
yes, LinkedIn. I'm big on LinkedIn. And I'll
Perfect.
put my email out there. It's t.g@lvpefund.com. I'm
Perfect.
also on Crexi. I have a bunch of lists.
Definitely check him out. You can message him on the platform and he will respond to you, everyone. Well, thanks so much for hopping on.
Of course.
And thanks for everyone who tuned in today. If you enjoyed this episode, do not miss the next one. Go to visit go.crexi.com/podcast and sign up to get the next episode delivered straight to your inbox. Of course, you can also subscribe to the Crexi Podcast on your favorite podcast app and check out our YouTube channel for video recordings of each episode. Take care and be sure to tune in next time.